Welcome to the Accountability Indicator Training for State Assessment Results in Reading and Mathematics and the State Assessment Results in Science, Social Studies, and Writing. This is one in a series of trainings for the Kentucky Accountability System. There are 6 indicators comprised in Kentucky's accountability system. These indicators are State Assessment Results in Reading and Mathematics, State Assessment Results in Science, Social Studies, and Writing, English Learner Progress, Post-Secondary Readiness, Quality of School Climate and Safety, and Graduation Rate. In this session, we are going to focus on the State Assessment Results in Reading and Mathematics indicator, as well as the State Assessment Results in Science, Social Studies, and Writing. The Office of Assessment and Accountability has created this resource of accountability terms to assist educators when discussing Kentucky's accountability system with fellow educators and stakeholders. With the addition of the change component this year, you will notice a few new terms from last year. The change score is the numerical value of the difference between the current year and the prior year's status scores. Change level refers to the 5 levels ranging from declined significantly to increased significantly. When speaking of the indicator performance rating, we are referring to one of the 5 color-coded performance levels for each state indicator. The results of a unique combination of status level and change level, not based on cut scores. In this training, I will provide you with an overview of the status component of Kentucky's accountability system, including combined writing and accountability calculations. Melissa Chandler will use the second half of this presentation to provide you with information on the change component, including change score calculations, indicator performance ratings, and the overall score. First, let's take a look at status for the state assessment results in reading and mathematics and state assessment results in science, social studies, and writing. Status is defined as the overall performance for each district, school, and student demographic group determined by combining the state indicators to showcase the current year performance. Later in this training, I will demonstrate how to configure the status for the indicators of state assessment results in reading and mathematics and state assessment results in science, social studies, and writing. Proficiency within the indicator of state assessment results in reading and mathematics is defined as reaching the desired level of knowledge and skills as measured on academic assessments in reading and mathematics. Scores are derived from the Kentucky State Assessment and the alternate Kentucky State Assessment. Student performance is aggregated to school, district, and state levels. This indicator is reported in elementary, middle, and high school levels. Proficiency within the indicator of state assessment results in science, social studies, and writing is defined as reaching the desired level of knowledge and skills as measured on academic assessments in the areas of science, social studies, and writing. When assessing the writing component of this indicator, students will be assessed in the areas of on-demand writing and editing mechanics. Scores are derived from the Kentucky State Assessment and the alternate Kentucky State Assessment. Student performance is aggregated to school, district, and state levels. This indicator is reported in elementary, middle, and high school levels. On-demand writing and editing mechanics will be combined to create the student performance for writing. Students in grades 5, 8, and 11 will receive a scale score and performance level score for editing and mechanics and on-demand writing separately. Combined writing will be reported by performance level only: novice, apprentice, proficient, or distinguished. The combined writing performance levels are determined by the performance levels assigned for editing and mechanics and on-demand writing. This combined writing decision matrix displays the general guidelines described by the panelist in determining the overall writing performance level. The on-demand writing performance level should be greater than the editing and mechanics performance level. For example, If a student achieves a performance level of apprentice in editing and mechanics and a proficient in on-demand writing, their final performance level would be proficient, with more influence being placed on their performance level in on-demand writing. State assessment results for the indicators of reading and mathematics, science, social studies, and writing are all assigned points in the following manner. Novice will receive 0 points. Apprentice receives 0.5. Proficient, 1 point. And distinguished, 1.25 points. Student performance is aggregated to the school, district, and state levels. There are 5 status levels ranging from very low to very high for the current year. Color ratings will include 5 performance levels from highest to lowest. Performance of schools will be reported by levels, elementary, middle, and high as applicable. The school report card will display the color ratings for each indicator to communicate performance of schools, with red being the lowest and blue being the highest. This is an example for calculation of the state assessment indicator of reading and mathematics with an elementary school containing 200 students. In reading, there were 40 students at novice, 50 students earned apprentice, 80 students achieved proficient, and 30 students were at distinguished. Adding all of the NAPD points together gives us 142.5, which we then divide by the number of students, 200. Multiplying this answer by 100 gives us the status score for reading. In the area of mathematics, we would complete the same process. In this example, there were 50 students at novice, 60 students earned apprentice, 70 students achieved proficient, and 20 students were at distinguished. Adding all of the NAPD points together gives us 125, which we then divide by the number of students, 200. Multiplying this answer by 100 gives us the status score for mathematics. Combining the scores for reading and mathematics, then dividing by 2, once for reading and once for mathematics, gives us the score of 66.9 for the indicator of state assessment result in reading and mathematics. The number 66.9 will contribute to an overall score using a proportional scale distribution, or accountability weight. The state assessment results in science, social studies, and writing will have a similar calculation. This is an example for calculation of the state assessment indicator of science, social studies, and writing with an elementary school containing 200 students. After viewing the breakdown of the point configuration, you can see they earned a total of 72.5 points in science, 68.8 points in social studies, and 63.3 points in writing. Combining the scores for science, social studies, and writing will give us a total of 207.6, which we will divide by 3, once for science, social studies, and writing, earning this example a score of 69.2 for the indicator of science, social studies, and writing. The numerical status scores for both indicators will then be compared to the color rating system to determine the color score for each indicator. Thank you for joining me for the status portion of this accountability indicator training for state assessment results in reading and mathematics, and state assessment results in science, social studies, and writing. Melissa Chandler will guide you through the change component of these 2 indicators. Melissa?
Thanks, Lisa, and hello, everyone. I'm Melissa Chandler, and I'm a consultant in the Office of Assessment and Accountability. For this section of the training, I'm going to focus on change, which is the newest component in our Kentucky State Accountability System. In her portion of the training, Lisa provided us with details regarding status, including information about combined writing and status accountability calculations. So let's move on to the details for change. I'll cover change score calculations, indicator performance rating, and finally, how to determine your overall score. Just as there are 5 status levels, we also have 5 change levels shown here, ranging from declined significantly to increased significantly. The change level is determined based on the numerical change score. So let's work through how to calculate the change score. The change score calculation is pretty basic. We just need to subtract prior year status score from current year status score. You can see the formula here on the screen shows that calculation. Current year status score minus prior year status score equals change score. And although it's basic, this calculation is important because the process that we use to calculate each indicator is using this formula. Now, something to note here is that while we use the prior year scores to help us calculate change scores, prior year scores do not directly influence our indicator performance ratings. Their primary function is really to give us a benchmark or a point of comparison. So let's go through a change score calculation example. I'm going to use this status score for reading and mathematics that Lisa calculated in her section. Lisa determined that 66.9 was the current year status score for reading and mathematics. Let's say the prior year status score was a 65. I would take 66.9 minus 65, which gives me a change score of 1.9. So now for my hypothetical school, I've determined they have a 66.9 for current year status and a 1.9 for change. And the next step is to use those scores to determine the indicator score. To calculate indicator score, we have another basic calculation. We take the current year status score plus the change score to give us the indicator score. And this same formula is what we use to calculate the score for every indicator. Later, I'll show you how we'll use these individual indicator scores to calculate the overall score. But first, let's look at an example of how to calculate indicator score. I'm going to use the scores we calculated in the previous slides as an example for how we'll calculate an indicator score. We determined that 66.9 was the current year status score and 1.9 was the change score. So I will add those two scores, 66.9 plus 1.9, to give me an indicator score of 68.8. On the next slide, I'm going to show you how all these scores come together. This table shows how to find an indicator performance rating based on the combined change and status levels. You will likely become very familiar with this table because you'll reference it for each of your indicators. Down the left-hand side of the table, we have status ranging from very high to very low. And across the top, we have change ranging from declined significantly to increased significantly. Earlier, I mentioned that we can find the overall score using the individual indicator scores. And in order to do that calculation, we need to reference this table, which provides the overall accountability weights for each indicator at the elementary, middle, and high school levels. So let's see how these weights are factored into the overall score calculation. As the slide states, the overall score represents the combined outcomes across all applicable indicators with the appropriate weights combined. You'll notice that for this example, the indicator for reading and mathematics and the indicator for science, social studies, and combined writing are a different color. And that's simply to highlight that those are the indicators we're discussing in this particular training module. So to calculate overall score, you would first multiply each indicator score by the appropriate weight, which we took from the table on the previous slide. After you have those weighted scores for each indicator, you add them all together to get the overall score. For the elementary calculation, you will use weighted indicator scores for reading and mathematics, science, social studies, and combined writing, EL progress, and quality of school climate and safety to determine the overall score. For the middle school calculation, just like elementary, you'll use weighted indicator scores for reading and mathematics, science, social studies, and combined writing, EL progress, and quality of school climate and safety to determine that overall score. And then finally, for the high school calculation, you'll use the weighted indicator scores for reading and mathematics, science, social studies, and combined writing, EL progress, quality of school climate and safety, post-secondary readiness, and graduation indicator to determine the high school overall score. And that overall score will be what we use to determine the overall performance rating. The overall performance rating will be reported as a color, with red being the lowest rating and blue being the highest rating. Numeric score and color ratings will be reported publicly on the school report card, and that link can be accessed here in this presentation. Within the school report card platform, you'll have the ability to review specific school or district data, or you can get a big picture view by checking out the statewide data. Once you're in the system, you can view individual school indicator performance by clicking on Overall Performance Rating, View Accountability Data, then on Indicator Performance Rating, Explore Data. And this is where the reading and mathematics and the science, social studies, and combined writing indicators are, along with all the other indicators. As Lisa shared at the beginning of this presentation, this is just one module in the series of state accountability trainings. We certainly encourage you to review each of the modules in this series to get the best comprehensive understanding of this first year of full implementation of the Kentucky Accountability System. This concludes the accountability indicator training for state assessment results in reading, mathematics, and the state assessment results in science, social studies, and writing. For any questions related to this training module, please contact me at melissa.chandler@education.ky.gov or Lisa at lisa.jet@education.ky.gov. Thanks for your participation.